What was interesting about the huge overreaction to let's ban all Muslims, it's all the Muslims, was that, the terrorists used guns, and there was calls for don't overreact, don't you dare overreact or politicize this tragedy. The parents of Saeed Farouk were placed on a terror watch list after the attack, which means they could still go and stock up on AR-15s. And what the fuck's the point of a watch list? I'm sorry, there was a whole bunch of other stuff I had written down. It just annoys me so much. And the people that talk about the terrorist watch list, the people that talk about the terrorist watch list, that talk about there's no due process and there's thousands of people wrongly placed on the list. At the same time, there are roughly 800 something thousand people that are not wrongly placed on the list. These people can still go out and use the same exact weapons that the San Bernardino shooters got. Why don't we overreact in this way to something we can actually affect, instead of talking about some crap like let's ban the 1.5 billion people, out of whom a few might be terrorists?
Well, I actually happen to be one of those people who really think that the terrorist watch list thing is a bad idea. And not a bad idea in practice. Yes, of course, you don't want guns in the hands of people who might cause trouble. That I'm actually, it's fine. But the thing is due process is important, and especially with something that has been determined by the Supreme Court to be a constitutional right. So I think that just sets a very dangerous precedent to start denying constitutional rights for being on the terror watch list, because if you can deny the Second Amendment, you can just as easily deny the Fourth and the 14th and things like that. So I think in spirit, like, how about this? Put in the NCIS if they're on the terror watch list, and then let that be a flag. Like, make it so that that is part of the background check. There are people who are accused of domestic abuse who can't buy guns, and as long as they're not convicted, that right is restored to them. So, again, it's just the plan that they have out there now sucks. But because we can't have, again, any rational debate about gun control or any kind of gun law whatsoever, that can't be discussed. Like, let's just make it part of part of the due process, and then it's fine. So I just think that sort of part, your point about the reaction to the San Bernardino shooting, it was the first time I've ever actually been legitimately fully ashamed of my country. Like, it just in general. Because, to be fair, on Twitter, I saw gun control politicizing, pro-gun control politicizing, well before I saw anti-gun control stuff, just because, naturally people are passionate and it's an emotional thing. But, we were already at each other's throats before the event, not only before it was even over, before we even knew what it was.
Well,
so, that would have been like
talking about the Planned Parenthood shooting just days before that.
That is 100% true. This was 4 days after.
Already talking about this, and then this attack walked into that conversation.
They're way more related than we've given it credit for, because they're both acts of religious fundamentalist terrorism. They were literally the same fucking thing there. But Deaver, to get that other thing, is on terrorist watch list because he didn't have a bin Azir in his name.
It's interesting that the Planned Parenthood shooting just freaking disappeared.
Oh, it did vanish. Yeah, no one gives a shit anymore.
It just went away. The San Bernardino thing, it just took it and made it like it never happened. It was incredible how quickly it disappeared from the media.
At the risk of repeating myself, to be honest, I don't know if we even actually talked about Planned Parenthood in extent last time, because fucking San Bernardino was going on as we were talking about it. But the one thing that I found, and again, through a completely unscientific, I talked to the pro-life and anti-abortion people that I know, no one for the Planned Parenthood shooting would say that what he did was a worse crime than abortion, morally. At best, you were going to get their equally morally wrong. So I think that's why that went away, just because unless you're going to talk only about that particularly disturbing point, there's really nothing more to say about it. And, Islamic terrorism, that's a dance they know how to do for days.
Yeah.
But
this
is like, but this would be like if it was like 2003, 2004 pundit clashes on September 12th, the way we reacted to San Bernardino. I honestly think that if it had been worse or like a bigger scale thing, if they had pulled off 1 or 2 attacks like in Paris, man, I don't know if we could even fucking take it. And I don't know what would happen. But I think that is sort of the problem, is that the things that should bring us together, like the aftermath of terror attacks, just makes us further divided, which that's the scary part.
Can you imagine there were, 14 people killed in San Bernardino, and, my condolences to the families. But, imagine what our country would be doing if there was something on a larger scale, a third of a 9/11, whatever. Something that really involved the kind of terrorism that we sort of almost seem to be waiting for, I guess. It would just destroy us. I think the thing, though, coming out of San Bernardino on a minor scale that emphasizes our full of shittedness is how almost instantly the discussion turned from guns to the safe ground, the go-to of anti-Muslim terrorist stuff. Obama's speech didn't have a word about gun control that I could pick up.
He
right
did
after
mention what
shooting,
I mentioned about the watch list.
A taste of it. But the thrust of the speech was, now we got to go fight ISIS harder. It just completely turned it around, and we got back to safe ground here. Same way with Planned Parenthood. I suspect if people were going to ever revive the discussion about that, we would scrupulously avoid abortion, and we would talk about crazy people and the mentally ill getting guns at worst, at best, whatever you want to say. We seem to sidestep what matters in favor of what's easy to have our media discussions about. Except here on Latest.com.